Many photographers love to travel, but when we do, we typically find ourselves overthinking and then overpacking. I'm Dmitry Koshutin, and in this episode, we're going to try and avoid doing just that. Alright y'all, so why did I decide to do this as one of the first videos for PetaPixel? Well, it's because I'm currently on vacation and I'm running into the same issue that I run into every time. Now I have gotten better at it, but I always start like this. I have an empty bag and I start packing cameras. You know, maybe I'll pack one and a lens. I think that'll be enough. And then I pack another one. And then I pack more lenses. And then I pack more memory cards, batteries, and before you know it, I have a full bag. I'm Looney Tunesing all my camera gear into this bag, trying to fit everything in. By the end, I have 5 cameras, 10 lenses, none of which I end up using. Well, I end up using, a couple here and there, but all the time, I feel like I start packing and I always overpack. So what's helped me get better at this? Well, I think the key is preparation. If you ask yourself the key questions ahead of time, I think you can prep yourself a lot better so that you're carrying a lot fewer lenses, a lot fewer gear, and that way you can be in the moment with your family on vacation. So let's dive in. The first time I picked up a Fujifilm camera was when another photographer at a community event handed me theirs and said, just try it. And that's how Fujifilm, today's sponsor, works. You discover it through people, through community. That's where the real education happens. And there's so much to learn from your fellow creators. Secret tips and tricks, film simulation recipes, anything to get the most out of a Fujifilm camera. And if you're curious, visit your local camera store, pick up a camera with your own hands, and meet the people behind the counter. They will be thrilled to give you a full walkthrough. And those 5 minutes of hands-on experience will give you more than any spec sheet ever could. Find a local dealer at shopusa.fujifilm-x.com. Back to the video. The first, and I think necessary question, which we should ask ourselves, which I feel like we often do, but we don't really get a chance to answer it truthfully, is where are we going? What are we going to be doing? So in my case, I am currently at Joshua Tree National Park here at a lovely Airbnb, just taking the time to talk to you all. I know that, for example, when I am coming to Joshua Tree, I'm going to be doing a lot of climbing in the park. I'm going to be doing a lot of bouldering, scurrying, and especially now when my kid is 4, he's doing the same thing as I am, and he is much faster at it than I am. So how does that inform our decision? Well, probably we should carry a lot less gear, probably gear that can only fit maybe on our body, or maybe that can fit in a small backpack, but that would be the first choice that I would make. Second, and I think a lot of people tend to overlook this question, is what are these photos going to be for? Are you going to be using them for posting on social media? Are you just going to have them in a family photo album? Are you going to be printing them? All of these things obviously decide different types of gear that we're going to bring. So in this case, I would love to print a few, but it's not like I need to, bring big photo studio setups everywhere that I go. I'd like to stay light and be nimble. What I would love to be carrying is less gear, and I would love to all have it be on me, not dangling around, not have to reach into a backpack every time, but have it all present and be able to take photos. And I guess that's the other question, is how readily do you want your gear to be available? I love to have my cameras on me the whole time, because if it takes me longer than 10 seconds to whip out a camera, turn it on, then I'm probably missing the moment at that point. So that's the trade-off. Let's dive into the cameras. Now, my first choice would be something like this, a fixed lens camera that has a relatively shallow profile, very low, very nimble, doesn't have anything that juts out, doesn't have a long lens. That kind of changes the balance of it. This stays relatively close and flat to your body, so anytime that you want to reach for it, it is there. You don't have to swap out lenses. This would be GFX 100 RF. There's also X105 and X106 that I love using, but that would be my first go-to. The second one, just because I love photographing film, I always like to bring at least one film camera with me. I've recently just been stuck on these types of cameras. This is the Widelux F6. This is a panoramic 35mm camera. Also, low profile, don't have to worry about the lens, especially the lens is more covered, so you won't have to be bumping it into different, obstacles, rocks. If you're jumping through a bush, you don't have to worry about it getting scratched so much, but this is something that I would love to bring. It's a little bit on the heavier side and a little bit wider, and so I always love having this around my neck. I don't have to worry about it bumping into things. Now, going back to the question that I asked earlier is, where do you want to see these photos? How do you want to see these photos displayed? In my case, I know that I want to take some portraits. I know that I want to take some good printable photos that I can send to family, friends. This is the trade-off, is that I brought my GFX 102, which is a much larger camera, a much heavier camera with a portrait lens. This is the 80mm f1.7. It's great. It's a beautiful lens, but this camera weighs a ton compared to those other two. So this is something that I would choose selectively, just because I know that I'm going to be using it for portraits. So maybe I'll keep this close in a bag to the car, but I won't actually be hiking, jumping and running with it. Like I'm showing you here, I brought this camera just on its own with the lens already attached. That was my choice. And I think that's a really cool thing, once again, to decide ahead of time, is that when you're bringing things out, lock yourself into a decision, because not only will you get cooler photos and cooler creative choices, you will be forced to carry less things. Another decision you should be considering is, how many cameras do I want to bring out with me at once? I used to have a whole backpack. I would swap lenses all the time, and that would just get tedious. But I was worried that I'd be missing out on different angles, on different opportunities to take different photographs. Now, since then, I've changed my tactic, and I would urge you all to look at the way that you like to photograph. I decided to make it a challenge that I would only bring out one camera at a time with me, one lens at a time with me every time that I'd go out. Now, it doesn't have to be the same camera or lens every time, but when you have less options, you are locked into just that one particular frame that you can get from the camera. So it makes you work a little bit harder creatively to try to get the frames that you want. So for example, the first day I brought out GFX 100 RF with me. I had it on my side the whole time. I had it on the strap, and I was able to get all the quick in the moment shots with my kid and my wife as I was walking around, and I am locked into that for the whole time. Now, obviously there's digital zoom inside. I can do different options. I can do different crops, but let's say I want to do a portrait. I obviously don't have an 80mm with me, so what am I going to do? Maybe I'm going to get close, maybe I'm going to reframe, or I'm going to change aspect ratio so that I get a wider shot, I get a closer shot on the person, but I get more of the landscape along with them. So it starts to change your opportunities. And the second day, I decided to grab my film camera. Although exposure wasn't quite right for the ISO that I had for most of the day, we did get some overcast, so I was able to snap a few shots with this one. But it was still a challenge because I still had to wait for the right lighting in order to use this camera, which made the frames that I captured way more thought out and more involved than if I was just running around with this, snapping as if I was not limited by the film's ISO. Last thing I want to mention, focusing on, is the type of camera straps or camera support that you have. Now, if you notice on all of these cameras, I have the Peak Design anchors here, which, by the way, I feel like they should rebrand these. I kind of think they look like beans, so they should be called camera beans. They look very beany. The other cool clip thing that I would like to show you, which maybe many of you have seen, is the spider holster. I feel like a lot of people make fun of me for this. I get called names a lot about this. People say nobody uses these, that I look like a dork, which I don't disagree, but I still think it's an awesome system to use. So this little thing just goes onto a belt holster, clips in, stays secure. I think it's fantastic, especially if you don't want to be carrying another bag with camera gear. One more thing to show you that I kind of use for more mountaineering work is when I get up onto a mountain, I don't oftentimes have a belt that I can clip on, so I like to use, once again, this Peak Design capture clip system. Now this one, it just dangles on here so that you don't have to reach around, you don't have to drop your ski poles like I would be using, and you can just clip it from here, take the photo, clip it back in, and keep trudging up the mountain or down the mountain. consider how you plan to use your batteries, because oftentimes if I am traveling, especially with limited space where I have to pack not only clothes but camera gear, I tend to bring just enough batteries so that I can swap them out and charge them if I need to, plugging in the camera, but I try not to bring too many battery chargers if I can help it. Oftentimes I find that I would rather be swapping batteries as quick as I can, get to the end of the trip, and then I can charge everything when I get home. So I hope this kind of outlines it for you how I try to pack. Obviously something that is different for everybody's process, but nevertheless, I think this is a cool approach. And most importantly, if you're asking yourself these questions at the beginning, where am I going to be going? Who are these photos for? What am I going to be doing? How present do I want to be with my family or with the people that I'm with? And I think when you're doing that, right before you pack, that outlines your decisions a lot clearer. And once again, challenge yourself to be more creative by limiting your choices. Our brains are very wired onto pushing through boundaries and bouncing off of creative boundaries to make way more beautiful content than if we were left with infinite choices. So challenge yourself, lock yourself into just a couple options, and I think your images are going to come out just as great, if not better. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this gave you some new ideas, maybe some other ideas about how you take your next family vacation. But I'm so excited to be doing way more content for PetaPixel. We're going to be talking about filmmaking, cinematography, a lot of cool stuff on motion. So please stay tuned, and thank you so much for watching.